Welcome to One Bills Lite, the bullet train version of our daily show, One Bills Live, where we discuss all the Bills and NFL you can handle in about 40 minutes. Coming up, a discussion on some recent fan idiocy, and could it spill over into the NFL? Chef Darian Bryan, who cooks it up for several Bills players, joins us, and we ask our one burning question. Let's tee it up!
And it's Steve Tasker who has been all over the field.
Kind of unique. He was kind of a dual-role player for you. Steve!
A balloon.
Steve! A blimp? We're not even in the stratosphere of normalcy. Thank you for choosing us here at One Bills Lite. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you as always. And Steve and I couldn't help but to take notice of some of the dumbassery, I believe, was how Yahoo Sports phrased it on the parts of fans, chiefly in the NBA, Steve. And just to run it down so everybody's up to speed, a fan spit on Atlanta Hawks guard Trae Young, another threw popcorn on Russell Westbrook, and a third threw a water bottle in the direction of Kyrie Irving as he exited the floor. Utah Jazz fans verbally abused Ja Morant's family in the stands, and in the NHL, Ethan Bear of the Edmonton Oilers got racist remarks sent to him on social media after his mistake in Game 7 eliminated them from the playoffs. Steve, what the hell has happened?
I don't know. It seems as though it's almost like people cutting loose, getting too loose after being cooped up for too long with COVID. It's like they decided that the old rules didn't matter anymore. And I think, you forget, because so much of what we do in our lives these days in America, and I don't want to get philosophical, bro, it's just me. So so much of what we do is on screen. Kids on game station, PlayStations, and video games. Us for work, we're on our computers, on our social media accounts, at home, in our leisure time. I think we forget sometimes that the people we see on our screens and the people we see on television, and that they're human beings, and that we are too, and that we kind of dehumanize all of this stuff, and we feel like it's, if you can do something, say something to your TV screen or your computer screen, you should be able to say it out here. It's just not the case. Whether it's people just maybe COVID hangover, we've got to come up with a phrase that means cutting it too loose after being cooped up with COVID.
Yeah.
And I want to just give them a pass for that, because some of this stuff is inexcusable. But I think we forget sometimes that the most important thing about these games that we see and the things that we partake of in live sports and hockey and football and basketball is played by human beings, and people tend to treat them like they're not.
Yeah, and I would say, and believe me, I don't want to sound like get off my lawn guy, but I think there is one thing that has been lost here in general. I think it even goes beyond the bad apples. And I just think it's called common courtesy. I think that's kind of something that's been lost in our society. Just treating somebody with the same, the golden rule thing, whatever you want to call it, it's common courtesy. And I do agree. I think that it's very easy for fans to forget that the supremely talented athletes that entertain us, they're human just like us. You hear coaches talk about it all the time when they feel like a player of theirs has been wronged in some way, whether it be publicly on social media or otherwise. They put their pants on one leg at a time just like everybody else. And I know that sometimes the coverage and the hype that surrounds some of these athletes automatically puts them on a pedestal before anybody even has a chance to decide what they are and what they aren't. But at the same time, there is fan responsibility too. And I know fans feel if they buy a ticket, they have a right to do whatever the heck they want, and that's wrong. They don't. Yeah. Yes, you can boo, you can heckle if you want, but at least have some semblance of common courtesy. When you're out, I mean, you're in an arena, you are in a public setting. I mean, it's like Kevin Durant said, I wonder how your mom would feel if she knew you were the guy spitting on Trae Young. Like,
yeah,
that is mom like, what's mom doing if she sees you doing that? Just bring it back to that. Like, Your mom didn't raise you that way.
Yeah,
I'd like to think in most cases.
It's a bad situation. People tend to, and we're in the toy department of life here. Even at One Bills Lite, we're talking about a game that people play, and it's a kid's game. It's and played by men for keeps, and it's important to them. It should be the most important to the people who actually are partaking in it. Guys like the players you look at. If you're taking it more important than that, you need to take a step back.
And I tend to agree with you as far as the pandemic is concerned, and even Yahoo Sports, which did a great write-up on this recent rash of abhorrent fan behavior. You know, they kind of likened it to shaking up a soda can with the pandemic. Let's not be naive about this. There have always been the so-called bad apples who show up every once in a while and take things too far, but it's like the pandemic happened, now fans are back, and it's like everyone forgot where the governor switch was on the difference between trying to distract a player or heckle a player and just being a flat-out moron. So where do you think the disconnect was? Like, how much do you put on the pandemic and everybody being cooped up and having cabin fever? How much of a percentage of bad fan behavior do you put on the pandemic?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this. There's no simple answer. But you take an NBA game. A lot of people haven't seen an NBA game in a long time, and now some people are seeing them and some people aren't. Some of these stadiums are empty. Some of them have fans in them. Same with football and the way it was during the regular season. But there has been such a normal feeling about going to a game where you'd go in, you'd see some of the same people, where certain, like in the Garden, you know where certain celebrities sit, and you know the people around you. At Highmark Stadium, people know the people around them. You got season tickets. You've had them. You got them from your dad, and the guy next to you got them from his dad. You've been coming with his dad, and you've known these people for some of them for decades. There's a little bit of that's disjointed now. Everybody's sitting in a different place. Everybody's sitting sequestered. They're sitting in away from people they know, among people they have no idea who they are, and that's not as normal. That's not normal, particularly in a market the size of Buffalo. And in some of these other markets where they're trying to find people to come in, and a lot of people just don't want to yet. So you've got this feeling of this isn't a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. This is a kind of a unique situation. And because of that, people don't act the way they normally would if they were with their friends or people they were familiar with.
Fortunately, all the leagues have done what they're supposed to do in these situations, which is overpunish. So no one even thinks about doing the kinds of things we've witnessed again. But do you think, Steve, that this spills over to the NFL this fall when fans are allowed back? We know how tailgating lubes up fans for games as it is. Now, after being away for a year and finally getting back into the building, you know how the emotion kind of reaches a fevered pitch right before kickoff. What's it going to look like in those touch point areas where teams head up the tunnel at halftime or come out at the start of the game? I know the stands are a little bit further back in football in general, but there are going to be touch points and flash points where the opportunity could exist for somebody to get stupid.
In a football game, it's a little different, particularly here in Buffalo, in Green Bay, in Baltimore, in Cincinnati, in Pittsburgh, the towns I can just think of, Tennessee. There's a big tailgate atmosphere, and that would be as much of a difference for me. People getting back outside, getting among people, having too much to drink. A lot of that stuff going on and then other fans coming in and having altercations. You can see it happening. But once you get in the stadium, I would say it all depends on how your team is playing. If your team's winning, I think there's no issues because you're happy and all of that. When something happens, it's a tight game, and one of their team does something, the Kyrie Irving going out and stomping on the Celtics center court logo.
Not smart.
Fans feel like that's their territory, and some, instead of just booing and yelling, some yahoo feels like he wants to get it physical with the guy. That's crazy. But all that stuff comes down to, what's going on at the moment. And there will be some things happening, tailgates, in the game, in a tight game, or coming off the field, where fans will have that moment where they can make a decision where they can get away with something. And quite frankly, you just can't. in the atmosphere of a professional sports arena these days.
I mean, it's not like we haven't seen it from time to time here in Buffalo over the years. I mean, I still remember a Bears game where people were throwing snowballs at Ditka coming off the field when he was the head coach of the Bears. You know, back when he was coaching that team, people are chucking snowballs and ice balls at him. We've seen that before. We've also seen other foreign objects on the field before that will go nameless at this time, but it happens from time to time. I just wonder if the pandemic effect, which seems to at least in some small part be playing a role in what we've seen recently in the NBA chiefly, I wonder if that still exists by the time we get to the fall. It'll certainly be interesting to keep an eye on going forward because we know NFL fans are going to be over the moon to finally be back in stadiums on Sundays. Good discussion there. Time now for the numbers game where we quiz Steve on a numerical trend or historical fact and watch him rack his brain. Steve, since we're talking about fans returning to NFL stadiums and what their behavior might look like, I thought this week's numbers game should deal with the stadiums that'll have the most people to worry about. So, Steve, I need you to try to name 5 of the 10 largest NFL stadiums in terms of seating capacity in the league. Seating capacity. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, give me some guesses here.
Here we are. I will say Dallas.
AT&T Stadium is number 4 on the list. 80,000 is listed for football, but it can expand to 100,000. But it's number 4 on the list.
Really?
Yeah. There are 3 stadiums with more than 80,000 capacity in the NFL.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And one, I will say this, one surprised me. And then after thinking about it, it made sense, but I would have never guessed it.
All right. Dallas is number 4. I'm going to say, wow. Kansas City?
Kansas City is on the list, number 6. After their renovation, they are 76,416
They're number 6.
capacities.
And
number
I got to
6.
get the top 10?
I need 5 of the top 10. I'm only asking for half of
Buffalo.
Buffalo did not make the list, Steve. Just outside the top 10. You know they're down to 71 and change? Down to 71 and change.
All right. Then how about MetLife?
MetLife is number 1 on the list. I feel like Richard Dawson. The number 1 answer. MetLife Stadium, 82.5.
I did not know that.
82.5 seating capacity. Yeah. It's cavernous.
Raymond James.
Raymond James is not on the list. Not in the top 10. You need 2 more, Steve.
Oh, New Orleans.
Yes, the Superdome, number 5. 76,468.
Reliant Stadium.
Reliant,
Houston.
not... Oh, Energy Stadium. Yeah,
Energy Stadium.
It's now Energy Stadium. No, it's correct. Ding him up. Yeah, that's 5 for you, Steve. 72,000.
Take that buzzer back.
200. The name of the stadium is different now.
So I got 5 of them.
You got your 5.
Let me see if I can get the top. Some of the
top
5.
3. You didn't get number 2 and number 3.
Seattle.
Seattle is number 10, tied for number 10.
All right. Oh, the new one, SoCal.
SoFi. That is tied with Lumen for 72,000 only capacity. That surprised me. I thought it would be larger, especially in a market like LA.
Arizona's not that big.
I do think they have expansion seating as well, but
Arizona does. So what's Arizona's?
Arizona not in the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah. So most of these are not some of the larger markets in the NFL that are left. Number 8, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, 75,523.
Okay.
Mile High, the new Mile High.
Oh, yeah, okay.
76,125. Number 7 on the list. Number 3 on the list, Steve. Lambeau at 81,441.
Really?
The new renovation provided an expansion. If you remember, they put that second level on.
I mean,
81,441.
Some of those. It's an intimate stadium, I will say that, because they went up vertical and they just put the seats, tilted the seats to almost feel like you're going to fall out on the stage.
But now, at least, people don't have to will their season tickets to their waiting spot. There are people in Green Bay who will their spot on the waiting list for season tickets to their grandkids
Yeah.
That is less of a problem now with the expansion of the seats.
Wow.
And then number 2, FedEx Field in Washington, 82,000. So that is your top 10, top 11 technically, with Lumen Stadium and SoFi Stadium.
Lambeau, I would not have got
That's
that.
the one. That's the one I was like, wow, Lambeau. I didn't know they went.
Good for them.
I don't know whether it went that high with the seating capacity, but they did. All right, good numbers game there, Steve. Time now for our featured interview of the week. Darian Bryan, a locally renowned chef who does a lot of specialty cooking for some Bills players, including Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs. Here's Darian on how specific the requests can get and who might have a portion control problem. He is the owner of the Plating Society Boutique Chef Services, which includes meal prep, private dining parties, and catering. You may have seen him on CBS or ESPN where he's made some appearances. He is a personal chef to upwards of 12 Bills players who have hired him for specific events. And he's located right here in Buffalo. It is one chef, Darian Bryan, joining us. Chef, looking good, spiffed up and ready to roll here. You're out dressing us to a T, man. How you doing?
You know, I got to keep it clean like Jesus Police record, you know. I mean, that's what we call it in Jamaica, you know.
Yeah, what? So I've seen your website now. You cook everything. Do you have a specialty or something that that never fails, that everybody likes? Do you have a special dish?
You know, I got to go back to my Jamaican roots and say curry chicken.
Yeah,
because that's like my backbone right there. I love curry chicken. You know, people love it too.
Yeah.
That's right. A lot of times you set up the jerk hut over at Larkinville, and the jerk chicken I know is a big favorite of people, so I'm not surprised that was your answer. Why don't we start just with your personal story, Chef, because, you know, obviously, I mean, people hear you speak and they recognize very quickly you're a native of Jamaica, but maybe just spell out for us your route to the States and then why Buffalo as the place where you decided you were going to go into business and make yourself such a success.
I don't know what I was thinking coming to Buffalo. It's cold here, man. I came here 9 years ago. So, like, cooking started at a young age. I used to help my mom in a cook shop in Jamaica. We used to have a small cook shop. We do, like, you know, curry goat, curry chicken, jerk pork. I was like 12 years old helping her in the kitchen all the time. And I see the way food make people happy. I'm like, I would love to do this as my professional career, you know what I mean? So my mom left Jamaica when I was 15 and I had to take over the cook shop. I'm like, man, can I do this? But it's like, I remember all the stuff she normally do, like the seasoning and the marinade and all of those stuff. I'm like, I can do this. So when my mom left, I started cooking for all the neighborhood folks. And I'm like, man, I would love to do this for the rest of my life. And that's how the cooking started.
And that's
and I
really
came
basic.
here when I was 20. I started school at ECC, the culinary arts program there. I also started my own cuisine there, which is Caribbean cuisine. Because when I was in school, I noticed Caribbean cooking was lacking. So I'm like, I want to bring something new to the table. So I started that, and I went to Buffalo State for hospitality management. So I pretty much get trained in both areas. So you put me wherever in the industry I can work there because I was trained by professionals, you know?
Yeah, so it really stemmed from your root in wanting to make people happy by giving them something good to eat. And you kind of thrive on how your food makes people feel, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, as we all know, you are what you eat, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Whatever you eat, you know, you perform that way. It's like when I cook for the players, I make sure I give them the best quality because I know their body is what make their money, right? You know what I mean? Right. So I got to keep them healthy and strong.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, how did you kind of get connected with the Bills? And then who would you say is the most specific? Who gives you the longest list of how the food has to be, what can be in it, what can't be in it, how it can be prepared? Who gives you that long list, Chef?
You guys don't get me in trouble right here, man. Come on, man. Don't do me that, man.
No, they don't listen. They won't listen to. They're out on the
practice field.
They're working. We're here in their off time.
So
no, but I mean the truth is, Chef, we know that professional players are very specific because, as you said, you know, their bodies are their meal ticket. They need to be in top physical condition. So I imagine that their requests are going to be a lot more lengthy than maybe the average family that says, "Oh, we'd love to have you over to cook us dinner."
Yeah. So Vontae Davis was my very first guy when he was with the Bills. You walk in a restaurant that was working in Hamburg. So I was surprised to see a black man in the restaurant because in Hamburg you don't see much black folks walking around. So I walked over to him. I'm like, welcome. I didn't know who he was. I didn't follow football that much. I saw him the next day. I'm like, oh, you're back. He said, everything was amazing, man. Who's in charge? I'm like, I'm the executive chef here. He's like, can you be my personal chef? I'm like, who's this guy asking me to be his personal chef? They tell me that he played for the Bills and all this stuff. Then I cooked for him, and when he left, he flew me to Miami to do his events and stuff. So I'll meet all these players from there. Then they fly me to River Daily to do their event. And that's pretty much how it started. And other players start seeing it. They're like, oh, who's this guy? He looked good, he cooked good, he got the entire package, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, if I remember right, didn't you just cook for Josh's 25th birthday party, Josh Allen?
Yep, I did a surprise birthday party for him. My man running the house because Brittany told him they're going to go out for dinner. He came home, running the house, ready to get dressed. He saw me, he's like, hey, what's going on? It was a fun time, man.
Yeah, that's good. And what is the do they guys like that? Because we're talking to these guys. Some of them are like they're so big, they're like circus freaks. So, how do you have to like buy extra food when you do an event for football players, particularly a 25th birthday party for Josh and all these guys that show up? What kind of menu do they like, and what do you have to do for a group of professional football players?
I always have to, like when Diggs texts me, say, can we have dinner tonight? I'm like, okay, how many people we got? You would tell me 4, and when I show up, it's like 8 guys there, so I always prep extra. So if they want pasta, I know to cook for at least 10 people when he tell me 4, because when he said in the group chat, chef is coming over, all these guys are going to come over because, I produce the best, everybody want a piece of it too.
Yeah, that's
but
good.
These guys can eat, man. Especially Dion, that guy can eat. That guy loves grits too.
Yeah, the cat's out of the bag.
I'm guessing, Chef, that knowing these guys like to eat lean, they ask you to make mostly chicken and fish dishes, right? Not a lot of red meat.
Yeah, well, it depends. Like some guys, is either they want to eat healthy, they want to maintain, they want to lose weight, or some guy just say, feed me. And I say no more. But some of these folks, they're like allergic to like seafood, shellfish. So when I'm cooking, I can't be cooking like all these different stuff with their food. So I gotta make sure I keep their stuff separate because, I don't want any of these guys to get sick, man. People gonna look at me like, Chef, you cook for this guy. What did he do wrong? You know what I mean? So I gotta keep those stuff in mind when I'm cooking. I cook for like 8 of them in one day. So I have to be cooking that meal, put it away, cook that meal, put it away. So nothing can cross-contaminate,
Isn't there also kind of a group of guys who, particularly the young players, they don't have any clue as to what they should eat or how they should be fixed or how they should be treated? Do they kind of put themselves in your hands and say, listen, I don't know what I'm trying to gain weight or I'm trying to lose weight? Do they just trust you? And because I know even when I played, some of the guys really had to watch what they ate and other guys didn't care at all. How do you balance that mix if you've got all those guys sitting at the same table?
I'm glad you bring that up because sometimes they look to me for guidance for like nutrition stuff. I'm like, I'm a chef, I'm not a nutritionist, which blows my mind that some of these guys, they don't have that guidance. Someone who would tell them how to eat and what to eat. And it's like, this is what they do, you should have someone to guide you to say, this is what you eat to keep you going, eat some sea moss to keep you strong, all these stuff. So with me and my background of healthy cooking in Jamaica, I know a lot of those stuff already. So I asked them, what's your goal? What are you trying to do? So you want to bulk up, you want to lose weight, you want to maintain. So some guys just cook like straight pasta and stuff like that because that's what they want. Some guys want like the grains and the quinoa and the chicken breast, turkey breast, no red meat. So I gotta keep all of those stuff in mind when I'm cooking for these guys too.
Now,
but I wish most of them would have more like guidance of like what to eat.
Yeah.
So they turn to me for guidance, which I try my best to make them reach their goal. It's a wonderful feeling when they tell me like, Chef, I reach my goal, I'm like, yeah, let's go, man.
And then do some guys ask you, hey, prep like 3 or 4 meals for me so I'm covered for the week at home? You know, something that they can put in there. I know chefs are very particular about this. They only like to cook fresh. Do you like prep meals for a couple of days for some of these guys that they can take out of the fridge and heat up themselves? I know that might sound sacrilegious to a chef, but is that something that you at least try to help them out with?
Yeah, so I try to cook every other day. So some of these guys eat 2 meals a day. So I just cook, like I drop off on Monday and they see me back on Wednesday again, then Thursday, then Friday. So they have meals, not too much at a time. But Diggs, my man don't want any food in the fridge. You want it fresh. Which I respect it from you. My man want it fresh. You don't want any meals in his fridge. You want it fresh that night. So, and some guys just want it to be dropped off. It depends on who the player.
So if somebody's trying to get in touch with you, I know you've got the website and it's spectacular and the food looks phenomenal. Can somebody, where do you work like on a day-to-day basis? Where can somebody come, if in any place, to eat your food?
So I'm in Larkin right now. Yeah, I'm in Larkin actually right now.
Right.
And I'm doing this jerk hut pop-up, which is going to be every Wednesday. Starting on the 16th or 17th, one of those days of this month. So I do jerk hut, which is just, I do Jamaican food because people always complain I don't cook much Jamaican food. I always cook these fancy stuff. So I'm like, you know what? You guys want my Jamaican food? I'm gonna start cooking Jamaican food on my jerk hut so you guys can come and get it. So I'm in Larkinville in the filling station. That's where I'm at right now. That's where I used to cook all of these guys' meal. That's what I said. Diggs wanted in his home almost every night. You know what I mean?
Now,
I cook for like hockey players so those guys can eat.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I do have to ask you, Chef, because I've been fortunate enough to travel to some of the islands in the Caribbean, including your island of Jamaica, and I am particularly fond of the conch fritters. Now, how hard is it to get good conch here in Buffalo for you to kind of make dishes like that? Is it hard to get or relatively easy?
You know, I don't have a problem getting conch. So my man Clark's from Clark's Poultry and Seafood always got conch. And to save some time, I go to the Broadway Market. Broadway Seafood always got conch too. So
okay, good.
They break it up for me. For example, I have a smaller party of 2 people. They want conch fritters.
Right. Instead
of buying an entire 5-pound container, they break it up for me and say, here you go. Here's 2 pounds to make a conch fritters. So
what is the
whatever you want, I can ship it in, or I can get it from anywhere.
All right. What's the most difficult thing for you to procure? What's the hardest protein for you to get your hands on?
This protein. I don't think there's anything that I really can get.
Look at that. He can cover. He covers all the bases, man. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm thinking. You know, I pretty much get it all, man.
Yeah,
I pretty much get it
great.
all.
Nice.
Like if I want like Caribbean lobster, no, I can't really get that, because Caribbean lobster is very different from lobsters here,
Right.
They don't have claws. They have like 2 long thing going out, but they're not claws, So when I think a Caribbean night, people looking for Caribbean lobster, I don't have that. So that's pretty much
I think they call that. Is that what they call rock lobster around here?
Rock lobster. I don't really get that here.
Yeah. Chef, where do you kind of see yourself maybe in a couple of years? I know you've had some aspirations to kind of have your own home base where you can have people come in instead of you go to them, because that would make your operation a lot easier. It's hard to take your pots and pans on the road, man. It's probably a lot easier to do it in a home base, right? Is that kind of the end game here in a year or two?
Yeah, let me tell you about that, bringing pot and pans everywhere. It's rough, man. And that's what I do as a private chef. Like, for example, you 2 book me for a party. I'll come to your house with everything. Pot, pans, salt, pepper, everything. Because I learned my mistake, you know what I mean?
Right.
I learned from my mistake, like, go to people's home. They probably got some salt. No salt. They probably got some pepper. No pepper. So I start bringing my own stuff.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, it get tiring, man, just bringing stuff every night to people's home. That's why I have this new spot down the street that is gonna be my own base with the Plating Society. So I'll be doing cooking classes there, cooking shows, dinner parties. I got a big long island with a stove in the middle. I'm gonna be cooking and entertaining because I love to entertain. And I mean,
Right.
the players are excited about that place too because Josh was telling me like, man, we need that every Sunday night after the games. I'm like, say no more, man.
Yeah,
So I
there
have
you
to
go.
shut it down. So you're never gonna ever be in there with strangers. It's just you and your crew. Shut it down for the night. You have me all night.
Yeah, so when do you think that might be up and running? Do you have a timetable yet, or is that still in the works?
You know, it was supposed to be this month, but man, it got pushed back to like November, January, because the cost of lumber is like insane.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm kind of holding back right now to see
I get it.
if anything get better as time goes on.
So
hoping
you
for the best, man.
That's right. So you and I know the players, they always like to have a spot after the games. We used to do it when I played, are you gonna? Do you get a chance to go to these games with all these players? Are they playing, or are you busy getting ready for an after party, or both?
Well, they give me tickets all the time to go to the games, So sometimes I'll go to the game, and as soon as I get home, they call me up like, "Can we have dinner tonight?" So I'm like, "Okay." Run home and change and go shop to make dinner for the night,
Right. How many people are in your crew that you
That's what
take?
I live for. I love it, what I mean?
Yeah. How many people? Do you take any help with you? Do you have somebody like a sous chef that is with you that helps you? I mean, if depending on the size of the party, I guess.
I do have a sous chef to help me with like private events, but when I do with players, it's just me,
Mm-hmm.
My man Dwayne, and I got a server, Austin and Mike. Those guys help me out when I do like private parties. But when I do player stuff, it's just me.
Okay.
I got you. Last one for me, Chef. The pandemic threw everybody for a loop and made it challenging for just about everyone. How did you kind of come through that? I mean, we're on the right side of it now, so I would imagine that business is picking back up. But how tricky was it for you, and your business during that time?
It was tough because COVID kind of forced me to do something creative and different because I was at Fisher Price. I was the executive chef and general manager there when it got shut down. I was home every day bored with my wife and my 2 kids. I'm like, I got to get out of this house, man. I got to do something different because people, they still want to eat good, So I'm like, you know what? I got to figure out a way to reach these people. So I start doing like virtual cooking. So you buy your tickets and you watch me cook, or I'll send you the ingredient list. You go shopping and cook with me. Then I'm like, they're home, they're bored, they want food. So I'm like, I gotta go to your home because I saw a gap. I'm like, okay, people are home, they still want amazing food, amazing experience. I'm gonna take that fine dining restaurant to their home, and that's what I started doing.
Yeah.
Just take the entire experience to their home. Like they would come in and like, oh my goodness, they can't believe that their home set up like a fine dining restaurant.
Yeah.
So I gotta be creative.
Yeah.
Well, good
Chef-
on you for doing
Chef
that.
Darian, it's been great. Thanks for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. And best of luck on your new location and down at the Larkin building as well, at the filling station.
Yeah, and maybe when you got your spot, we'll try to set up a time for us to come out and maybe do a cooking lesson with you. I could certainly add to my resume. I mean, I know a few things, but I'm not anywhere near you. So I'd be all about taking a lesson from you. Who knows? Maybe we'll do it live on the show one time.
So I can pretty much teach you whatever you need to know. So I'm a good teacher.
Ah, perfect.
All right.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
the time,
much.
Chef. Good luck. And,
I just
Go ahead.
want to show that real quick. Today's my wife anniversary. Me and my wife anniversary. So I want to show that my wife real quick. Jessica, I love you, girl. Happy anniversary. 4 years. Let's go, man. Let's do this.
yeah, I know Jessica helps you out a lot with those photographs online for you. So you guys do a good job. ThePlatingSociety.com is where you want to go to catch Chef and all of his good works and good meals for that matter. So thanks for the time, Chef. We'll catch up with you down the line.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. One love.
We close out this episode with our one burning question, and this deals with some of what came out of this past week of OTA practices for the Bills. Defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier revealed that they've got close to a half dozen players in the mix for the nickel corner / linebacker hybrid role. They've got 2 safeties, DeMar Hamlin, Saran Neal, 3 corners, Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis, Rashad Wildgoose. The question is, will this position be manned by a single player in 2021, provided he's healthy all season long? We're assuming picture-perfect health for said player is the position manned by one guy the whole year?
Well, in a perfect world, yes.
Okay.
I don't think they want to rotate guys. They want to have 11 guys that they can play in any situation, which means they can choose their matchup rather than the offense choosing theirs. So I would say, for 17 games, 18 weeks.
Well, we're assuming the
health.
unrealistic world of perfect health.
I'll say yes, but I'm sure that there are going to be games, like if you go into these games where they have a matchup that they want like better, they'll switch guys out. But I would say yeah in that situation. I would say probably would be. I think that's their goal, and they've got enough guys to choose from. One of those guys will rise up.
I tend to think it's going to be mix and match with some of those weekly matchups that you referred to. Like, they're playing New England.
Right.
They're going to go two tights. I think they may go with a heavier guy as opposed to maybe Taron Johnson. They might go with a bigger player like Saran Neal, maybe DeMar Hamlin if he's, coming on strong in training camp and showing he's up to speed on stuff. So I think they may mix and match. Not a lot, but I think in a given game week they're going to say, hey, these guys are going two tights the whole game. Let's get a bigger guy on the field as our quote-unquote nickel guy.
To me, there's a difference between putting a guy in there for the entire game and then switching while you're in game.
Yeah.
If you're going to switch guys in game, I think that's what you're talking about, maybe doing it with a bunch of guys. But in a game where you've got a guy that matches up well, I think they'll find a guy, and that'll be their guy.
So I think week one, you're playing a 4-wide team like Tampa. It's probably Taron Johnson or a corner, and then when you're playing New England, who's going to go two tights, there's a good chance you're probably rotating a bigger guy in there. So I think that's how it'll go. You have any early favorites? You're riding Taron Johnson for.
Taron Johnson's the guy you got to unseat. This is you get what you earn, and Taron Johnson has earned the starting shot. Somebody's got to outperform him, and that's going to be hard to do.
I think the reason why is because Taron Johnson is clearly a player that this defensive staff trusts. You got all these other guys in the mix, even Saran Neal, who's been here for a minute. I think they still have to earn the trust with all the responsibilities that are involved with that position in the scope of this defense. That'll do it for this edition of One Bills Lite. Be sure to subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use so you know when our next episode is available for selection. And you know the deal. Whenever there isn't enough time for One Bills Live, there is always enough time for One Bills Lite. For Steve Tasker, I'm Chris Brown. We'll catch you next time, everybody.